first thing I would like to say, as you could hear, is that we would like to record the webinar in order to make it available on our YouTube channel, because I believe it will be very useful to the members of our project who could not join us today due to other obligations. So thank you everyone for attending, and especially thank you to Jarko for joining us through Digi4Life project and for agreeing to speak. It was really a great pleasure to make this collaboration with you. Before we move to your talk, I would first like to give word to Gina Kartik from EU-LI-PHE, who will briefly tell us something about our upcoming major event, which is the Midterm Stakeholder Conference that will be held on 11th of July in Leuven. So Gina, please, if you could address us.
Thanks, Adna. Good morning, everyone. So welcome to this edition, I think the 4th edition of the EU-LI-PHE Talks. Yeah, it's great to have some of you here and everyone online who would be watching later. So first, before explaining the stakeholder, I would like to just briefly introduce EU-LI-PHE and give the context of the stakeholder. So EU-LI-PHE, for those who doesn't know, is the European Network on Livestock Phenomics. It's a network, it's not a project, it's a cost action that brings together European-centered, multidisciplinary and inclusive expert network to overcome one of the biggest challenges in livestock breeding and management, which is the phenomics bottleneck. So what we have to understand is that phenotyping, which is the systematic measurement of traits in livestock, is very important in genetic improvement for day-to-day animal care and also for sustainability. So despite having all those advantages in genetics or advances, phenotype data collection can be and is still a limiting factor. So EU-LI-PHE aims to change that by fostering collaboration, trying to figure out the network of technologies available, improving the data analysis, and promoting, of course, the ethical and practical use of digital phenotyping. So with that in mind, I would like to invite you all to join our event, the EU-LI-PHE stakeholder meeting. So it's the first event of EU-LI-PHE regarding where we will be inviting stakeholders and people outside the network. So it will be happening on the 11th of June at KU Leuven in Belgium. And the meeting, so we organize it in 3 different sessions to kind of foster different conversations. So the first part would be on phenotyping innovations. So there we will discuss a bit the tools and results, for example, from Digi4Life, EWISH, and Livestock. So Jarko would also join us one more time at the stakeholder event. And of course, we will discuss opportunities and threats for livestock phenomics. So this would focus on legal framework, trust, and data sharing, because we know that there's still a lot to be done, a lot to be understood in phenomics regarding the legal frameworks. And of course, to be able to do all that, we have to learn from other domains, so other sectors that are doing phenomics research. And so in that context, the third part of the stakeholder event will be that. So we'll invite people from health, environmental, phenotyping fields to be able to bring together those different experts and learn from each other and to see where we are now and where can we go in the future. So I will put in the chat the full agenda for the stakeholder event, but also a registration link. We hope to see many of you there. Of course, right now, we don't have so many people online, but at least people who would watch this later to bring your ideas. We will have a lot of discussion. We will have room for discussing with the presenters, but also among the network, because the EU-LI-PHE network will be there. And there will be people from Western Europe to Eastern Europe and West Balkan too. So I think it's important for you to be there and to ask the question and to experience this network that is one in Europe and to help shape the livestock phenomics in Europe. So thank you again for joining today, and we can now begin the session with Jarko.
Thank you very much, Gina. Yeah, I will also extend my invitation to everyone watching this either in real time or in recording. And now I would like to give word to Jarkko Niemi, our guest for today, who will talk about digital technologies for improvement of the livestock sector.
Thanks, and thanks for inviting me to this webinar. So I will talk about from the perspective of DC4-LI-PHE project, which is a Horizon Europe coordination and support action which I'm coordinating. So I will first briefly introduce the project, and then I will explain a bit what we are doing, and then I will explain some of the case studies that we are carrying out in the project. So, as I mentioned, DC4-LI-PHE is a Horizon Europe coordination and support action. It's a 4.5 years project. We started in January last year, so we have still about 3 years to go. And there are altogether 15 partners, which logos you can see on the screen, who are participating in the project. Sorry. And actually, the main intention of the project is to increase the capacity of European livestock sector to benefit from data and digital technologies. And in the project, we utilize a multi-actor approach so that we are engaging different stakeholders and actors who are working in the fields of livestock and data and digital technologies. And we also have 6 case studies, which I will explain in a few moments. But maybe first it's good to think about focus on that why we are actually carrying out the project. And of course, there are lots of reasons for this. But in general, livestock sector in Europe and also elsewhere generates quite a lot of data, but these data are underutilized, so we could get much more out of the data that is already out there. And in addition to that, there has been also recent changes in the EU regulations and policies, such as EU Data Governance Act and AI Act, which are going to advance technology and also set the scene for utilizing data and digital technologies also in livestock farming. And you could say that data is the currency of the future. And when we combine data and new technologies, digital technologies, then we can actually benefit even more from the data. But there are a few obstacles in order to do this efficiently. So, for instance, there are some shortcomings in data harmonization, standardization, and interoperability, which is kind of a key, if you want to utilize the data across different systems and, for instance, use repurposed data. There are also some limitations in technology use and solutions for animal tracking and health and policy monitoring. So these could be tools to provide evidence and to go towards more data-driven policies and management solutions, including animal breeding programs. So these are some of the reasons that are behind the project. Well, then the benefits of data and digital technologies, they can be towards the private sector and, for instance, farmers, breeding organizations, processors, and so on, but also the governance can benefit from more efficient use of data. And this could also reduce the administrative burden to the farmers. One of the important things here is that we need to increase collaboration between different types of actors, especially if we would like to utilize data that is already being generated. So for that kind of pathways, it's really important to boost collaboration between actors. So in DC4-LI-PHE project, as I mentioned, the main goal is actually to increase the capacity of livestock sector in Europe to benefit from data generating and digital technologies. And we will develop gather evidence and develop concepts and technologies which help to, for instance, share data and utilize digital technologies in the livestock sector. We will work on standardization and communication around these topics. We also have 6 innovative case studies. And then we emphasize data sharing and incentives for this. And the stakeholders or actors that we are mainly focusing on this include, of course, farmers, food businesses, but also technology suppliers and public and administration. And then through case studies, a wide range of different actors. So I mentioned about these policies. Recently and in the coming years, there are lots of changes that are going to influence also utilization of data in the livestock sector. Well, you probably all know GDPR, but then also and that concerns mostly personal data, but then there are also many other regulations which are in line with Europe's digital decade policy. And basically, many of these policies are addressing things such as free flow of data and single market for data in Europe. And then also there are things like cybersecurity and better rules for and principles for utilizing data, not only personal data, but also like company level data. So there's an EU Data Act, which will come, which is expected to come into force in September this year, and it aims to make data more available for use by regulating those who can use and access data, and for which purposes across all economic sectors in the EU. So it's not only about agriculture or livestock, but it's kind of a generic regulation. And it basically regulates business to business and business to consumer data sharing in the context of IoT. And one of the underlying factors is that it's also trying to control unfair contractual terms, for instance, between data use between different business entities, and data sharing in case of exceptional needs, also addressed in this regulation. Well, under Europe, and then there are also some other regulations or policies like Data Governance Act, Data Act, and the Common European Data Spaces, which I will mention a bit later. And already a few years ago, stakeholders developed a document which is called EU Code of Conduct on Agricultural Data Sharing by Contractual Agreement. So what is actually quite important is that when we are using data and repurposing data for phenomics use as well, what is quite important is that we have clear rules and principles how this happens. So regarding data and use of artificial intelligence, which is one of the big possibilities for boosting data utilization, it's important to notice that whenever AI is used, that it would be in compliance with the EU Data Act and EU Data Act, and this concerns, for instance, the level of sensitivity of data. And what is actually quite important is to know from where the data are obtained from and how. And in this respect, interoperability might be a challenge if we want to utilize data, for instance, in animal breeding programs. Another important consideration when using AI and combining AI and data is that the process how the data are handled is trustworthy, but and also that the data are trusted. So it's critical that the results are robust and reliable. Then we also need to pay attention to data privacy and pay attention to who decides about the data use. So what kind of structures or rules we have and who has the decision-making power, for instance. and then how data are managed and analyzed, and how the benefits are shared. So these are like considerations that need to be given attention. So yeah. So regarding digital life and what we do regarding case studies, well, actually, what I mentioned about these regulations and policies, they are kind of included in some of the works that we are carrying out in digital life, and but then actually the most interesting work is probably within the case studies. So we have 6 case studies where we are using co-creation approach and a strong multi-actor approach, which brings together different livestock sector actors from farm to fork. And in the case studies, we are developing concepts for better utilization of data, and we also want to address how digital technologies can benefit farmers and different stakeholders that we mentioned earlier in improving animal welfare, environmental sustainability, breeding practices, traceability, cost-efficient, effective monitoring and compliance, and impact assessments. And these case studies, well, you can see the topics in brief in the screen. So we have a case study about the generation of new data sets on animal health and welfare, which is expected to generate a framework for pig and broiler production chains, demonstrating the potential of connecting and harmonizing welfare data and health data along the value chain. Then we have a case study of the resilience and transparency in livestock supply chain, which basically focuses on aspects that would enhance the utilization of EU traces system. Then we have a case study about the robust AI methods for sensor-based animal tracking, and it aims to challenge AI models in different conditions and develop methods for efficient labeling and robust model training. Then we have a case study about integration of different technologies, including animal breeding, and this aims to include new traits of growing relevance that could be considered, not considered by using traditional methods. And I will come back to this case study a bit later. Then we have a case study about automating data collection for environmental sustainability assessment, and then one about policy monitoring, policy impact and administration. So during the last few months, we have organized several webinars. The webinar recordings are available at our website if you are interested in following those. And in the webinars, we carried out some polls among the participants. They actually had a quite nice participation with a diversity of participants. And one of the questions was that which on-farm data sources would you like to access for sustainability monitoring? And you can see like a word cloud of responses. So for instance, disease data, animal sensor information, insemination information, health data, and so on, grazing data. So this is just to show that what kind of information we got from stakeholders in this specific webinar. And then we also had a question about what are the key benefits that you see in artificial intelligence-driven animal monitoring. And you can see some responses in the screen. So data-driven insights for decision-making, improved animal health and welfare tracking, and increased efficiency in farm management were among the most frequently considered benefits. And these are also important when thinking about utilizing phenotypic data and for instance, the development of more efficient animal breeding programs. And last thing that I'm going to show from these polls was that we had a question about what technology do you think that will be the most transformative for livestock tracking? And well, sensor-based technologies were like the most frequently mentioned technologies. So in the case studies, we are going to address various aspects of using existing data that is already collected on farms or by using sensors, and especially sensor-based data are addressed in many of the case studies. And we will basically develop concepts. In the case studies, we will basically develop concepts which will be then tested with the data or in certain environments, and then finally we will consider options for upscaling and examine those. And approaches to obtain and utilize this data vary. But some of the examples include, for instance, that we are joining forces with some private companies and farms to obtain animal welfare data from farms and sensors, but also from slaughterhouses and from production monitoring, and then trying to link these. And then there are also like machine vision related and geolocation related technologies that we are going to use. So why this automated phenotyping data collection is useful? Well, there are of course several reasons for that, and basically phenomic data are very critical in animal breeding, and using digital tools or repurposed data helps to obtain phenomic data that can improve animal breeding and environmental and socioeconomic performance of livestock farming quite a lot. And by using these new digital technologies, we can speed up the data collection and data analysis, and then this also helps to enrich data collection, for instance, for animal breeding programs and for production management on the farms. And then the benefits of this include, for instance, the potential for increasing productivity and economic returns on farms and in the livestock value chain. Also, improving animal health and welfare and reducing environmental footprint of the farming, and also reducing antimicrobial use. And if you are able to better understand how animals respond to their environments, then we can use this information to optimize management interventions like disease interventions or nutrition, and also to develop more efficient animal breeding programs. But what is important is that we ensure that the data that are collected, that they are valid and robust, and that we have clear rules that who can access the data and under which condition, and how the benefits are shared. So these are also things that we are addressing in the project. So I mentioned that we have this case study about animal breeding. It's still also on the early stages, since we are now in the second year of the project. But basically, these technologies are key to address the complexity of data collection and data needs of animal breeding. And this includes like phenotyping new traits that could be hardly measured before. So with by combining data from different sources in a new way, and by combining sensors and digital technologies in data collection, we can collect, for instance, information about new health traits and new behavioral traits, and this can be used in animal breeding programs to improve, for instance, the breeding values and breeding goals. We can also obtain more detailed descriptions of the environment. So on one hand, the physical environment of the animal, like temperature and humidity, and then the biological environment, for instance, microbiomes and basically disease pressure that the animals are facing. And then we can also integrate data from a variety of sources, for instance, from labs, slaughterhouses, from animal health monitoring databases, and so on. So these digital technologies provide new opportunities, and they can help us to identify and follow how animals are raised in groups. We can perhaps also use digital technologies to take into account social effects among group housed animals. And they might also enable better use of high throughput phenotyping and genotyping data. So in the case studies, my colleagues are going to revisit the use of standard traits and the management of genetic diversity in this respect. And then one more thing that might be interesting in this case is the use of digital twins. So we could use digital twins and simulation technologies to improve and to better take into account the real-time aspects of managing a herd and a breeding program. So in the animal breeding case study, these are some of the things that are being considered. And then at the end of the case study, there will be also a demonstration which will be based on walk overweighting of the animals, but I'm not going to explain more about that. Another thing that we are addressing in the project is related to case study C about robust AI and sensor-based animal tracking. So this is carried out by colleagues in KU Leuven and IDEL. And this is basically two different streams. So in pigs, it's utilizing or focusing on computer vision and using of computer vision to track pigs to generate animal welfare key performance indicators, and this is done by looking at long-term pig tracking and by using existing data sets. So there's a group of more than 30 farms that we have access to, and for instance, behavioral data can be examined in this context, and in some farms there are also more detailed technologies installed. So basically, one of the things that is addressed in this part of the case study is the labeling of observations that we obtain from the cameras. So smarter labeling can boost the possibilities to explain to exploit the data. And of course, behind the use of machine vision data, there is an algorithm. So this is actually what is in the focus here. And then in the dairy side, there's a sensor-based grazing traceability of dairy cows part of the case study, which basically focuses on tracking dairy cows on the pasture, and then this can be used, for instance, to consider different on-farm conditions and how robustly the sensors can monitor the animals. And the last thing that I would like to mention about the case studies is the data spaces, which I already mentioned. We are also considering the data space concept in this project. So data space is a decentralized system, like a network rather than a centralized solution. And the data space is usually aimed at making more data accessible and reusable in a secure and trustworthy environment and in a secure and trustworthy manner, so that the control over the data remains actually, for instance, on the farm who is generating the data. So basically, we can obtain different data from the farms, and then what is important is that we ensure that the data can technically flow between the systems, and that they are interoperable, so that we can actually combine them in our data space system, and that we also have permissions to use the data from whoever is providing the data or collecting the data, and then this can be used for various purposes, such as for environmental assessments or for monitoring the animals. So these were some of the things that we are considering the data in Digi4Life project. And finally, I would like to mention that we have also thematic expert panels. So if you're interested in joining one of the thematic expert panels, you can visit our website. The address is on the screen, and then we will be organizing thematic meetings for the members of the thematic expert panels in the coming 2 or 3 years. So thanks for your attention, and I will stop here.
Thank you very much, Jarkko, for your presentation. A lot of colleagues actually joined during your speech. So for everyone who maybe missed a small part of Jarkko's today's speech, I wanted to let you know that the whole webinar was recorded and is still being recorded, and it will be available on our YouTube for you to listen to whatever you maybe missed. Before we conclude with the webinar, I would like to give an opportunity to our participants to ask any questions they might have. for our speaker today. So if you have a question, you can either type it in the chat box, or you can raise your hand or simply turn on your microphone and ask anything. Luca, yes?
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jarko, for the presentation. I have just a quick question related to the use of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is becoming probably one of the next frontiers in many fields. What type of artificial intelligence do you think it could be of use in the context of animal phenomics, and if you have tested several algorithms, or what is the plan to do and proceed in this direction? This is just a general question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for the question. It's actually quite a difficult question. So in the project we have, so far we have been looking at, for instance, computer vision and how camera-based observations could be interpreted by using algorithms. So that's one of the things that we have been looking at so far. I think that it depends actually on for what you want to use the data. So and what kind of animals you are focusing on. So like for group housed animals like broilers and pigs mostly, these camera technologies might be something to consider, but they might require some further development. But basically, one of the benefits with the machine vision would be that you would be able to observe a bigger number of animals with single device. And then, for instance, in the dairy sector, well, lots of farms have, for instance, milking systems which are collecting data. So I think that's one of the, let's say, low-hanging fruits in the sense that they are already widely available in many farms, and that those could be utilized. And then these like activity meters and so on. What I think is quite important in terms of artificial intelligence is that you pay attention to algorithms that can be used to interpret the data. And in this sense, AI could be a very powerful tool in analyzing data from different sources, and maybe this integrated analysis could be one of the promising avenues.
Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. We have Pedro also with raised hand, please.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, very nice presentation. Yeah, my question is about, you were talking about behavioral traits and social effects. So behavioral traits doesn't have like economic interest itself. So my question is if there is any evidence about the relationship between behavior and feed efficiency, for example.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I'm not sure if there's evidence. So what we are doing actually in the case study is that we are currently exploring what could be the most promising traits, and in this sense, this is still like exploratory work. And then if you are able to locate applications or cases where the system could be tested, then it could be integrated. But yeah, but yes, it's quite important that we are able to somehow link whatever behavioral traits that we have, that we are able to link them to the objectives that the breeding programs might have. And of course, these objectives can be economic, and mostly they are like economic, but then there might be also some societal objectives in the breeding programs, and behavioral traits might be part of those. But then regarding behavioral traits, for instance, if we are looking at things like tail biting in pigs or some certain like aggressive behaviors, then those might actually have quite reasonably measurable, quantifiable economic implications.
Thank you very much. I would just like to check if we have any other questions in the chat. No, we don't have anything. So if there is no one else who would like to ask any questions, then I will just conclude by asking you for your advice and opinion on how EULIPHE could further proceed to collaborate with other EU-funded projects like DG4Life is, and how to use this opportunity of research projects to extend our own network of stakeholders for the second half of the project implementation for us. I don't know if you could hear me. So my question for you, Jarkko, was, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, so the question was to give us your opinion on how one cost action, like we are, can benefit from working together with research projects like DG4Life and other EU-funded projects to further extend our network of stakeholders.
Yeah, well, I think that one way to benefit is to organize events like this, or like stakeholder meetings, and especially like all the projects would benefit from collaborating and linking with the stakeholders. I think that that's one of the big possibilities. And then another approach to benefit from different, so to gain synergies between different projects could be related, for instance, to carrying out joint surveys or sharing data or methods, especially since cost action is a networking project. So I think this could be valuable. And yeah, and of course then sharing results would also be something that would benefit different projects.
Thank you. This was very beneficial for us. I believe all the participants will also agree. Thank you once again for agreeing to talk for us, and I know you will join us. So for the rest of DG4Life, also welcome to our stakeholder event. And we look forward to closer collaboration between our two project consortia. Thank you to participants also for attending, and the recording will be available on our YouTube channel by the end of this week, so you are free to revisit it whenever you need. Thank you everyone once again, and with this I would like to close today's webinar.